Okay, so we're going to start and just assume that you do not have a Klaviyo account set up. Now, note this is as of September 10th, 2023. So the interface may have changed, but I believe the fundamentals will largely stay the same for Klaviyo. So let's get started and we'll go into it. First off, you're just going to go sign up. Now, I've got a bunch of accounts, so it's already going to register mine here, but it's got my password. Go ahead and name your company. Go ahead and enter your company website. It's important that you do this. Enter your phone number. I like to put in the company phone number, as I think in some of the emails it actually includes this detail from like an unsubscribe page or something along those lines. So include that in there, and then how will you be using Klaviyo? If you're an agency, you're going to say for my client's business, but if it's for your own business, you're going to hit for my own business. And when you create an account, it'll actually give you some prompts to set up your account. So we're just going to go ahead and call this test, and I think if it allows me, I'm just going to send my own website as this one. We'll go 0275, that's my number, please don't call me, for my own business, and I'm just going to go ahead and click create account. Now, I may have an issue here with it already having my website registered, but we'll see what happens. So there, now we should be able to log in, and let's see what happens here. I have to get the authenticator code, bear with me here, we'll just go through this step here, authenticator. Always turn this on, especially if you're an agency. Make sure you have two-factor authentication on. The last thing you want is your client's accounts being smacked into. It's not a good look. Not that I've ever had it happen, but I've heard of it. So it's going to go ahead and create an account for you. This is where you want to describe your business. Go ahead and just put the details in. As you can see, actually, Klaviyo is opening up kind of where it's selling or offering. It's industry-wise, but if you're using Klaviyo, odds are it's probably a consumer good business, so go ahead and click that. And then what's the main focus of your business right now? I'm just going to say sell products online, but feel free to select these. I don't think this actually has much of an impact on how your interface looks, but it may down the road. Now, go ahead and use the platform or select the platform that you're using to sell your product or service. If you're probably a B2B platform, you're probably using something like Wix, Squarespace, or Custom. But if you're an e-commerce store, odds are you're using Shopify or WooCommerce or BigCommerce or Magento 2. We're just going to say Shopify, and then you can go ahead and put your Shopify store in there. I don't have one in this case since it's my business website, but you would go ahead and do that, and I'll do this later if we don't. And we're going to say how many contacts we have. Let's just say less than 1,000, but you can say exactly what it is. Enter your business details here, so you just go ahead and check those in there. We are in New Zealand filming this, even though I have an American accent. Feel free to hate me for that later. So we go here, and we go Auckland, and we click continue. We're going to go no thanks. Now, this is really important. This is where you set up the email address that you're sending your emails from. So if it's the sender name, right? If it's coming from an individual, if it's coming from a business, you want to put that in. So if your company name is like Treats for Dogs, for example, you'll write sender name, Treats for Dogs, and you'll put in an email address that you actually have for your business. So if it's admin, if it's sales at Treat for Dogs, you're going to chuck that in, because when people reply to your email marketing emails, it'll go to that email address. Now you can obviously tweak that, adjust it according to what you're sending the emails from, but it's just important to get this correct on the first go. You can adjust it in the back end, but it's a bit of a headache, and we can go through that in the settings portion of this video, but for the time being, this is what you're going to want to do. So put your name in, put your email address. Mine is Gavin at in-box.co.nz, and this should get me pretty set up. You can just go ahead and click what you're going to be using it for, email, SMS only, or email and SMS. As of the making of this video, SMS is only available for Klaviyo for US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. In this case, we're just going to select email because that's all we're going to be doing right now. And it sets us up. And here we go. Now, you're going to go ahead, if you use a Shopify store, you're going to connect your Shopify store here. This is important. You do want to get this integration set up. If you selected Magento, it'll display Magento here. If you displayed something else, it'll display that right in this video, or rather in this section here as well. So you'll go ahead and click connect. And what it's going to get you to do is it's going to get you to enter in your Shopify store URL. Now, obviously, I don't have one, so we're actually going to skip this step, but I'm going to largely kind of glaze over the process here. You're going to enter in your Shopify store URL, and then you're going to go ahead and select the list that you want your data sync to come from. So if in Klaviyo we have these lists here, you can obviously create more lists, But right now, Klaviyo only has this list. So your newsletter list. What will happen is it'll take that data from Shopify and then add those subscribers and that data to your Shopify newsletter, which is right there, and syncs it up, and then boom, it'll add all those people into your newsletter list. If it misses anybody, you can just go into Shopify, export that list, upload it from there, nice and easy. But here you can also sync the profile data and custom properties from Klaviyo to Shopify. So this is passing Klaviyo data to Shopify. And you can select what data you want to pass over. Obviously, it's not an endless amount of data, but you can pass over certain properties. And you can select a group of profiles to sync to Shopify. So Klaviyo, if you select all profiles, Klaviyo will sync all profiles, and new Shopify customers will be created for Klaviyo profiles that do not exist in Shopify. So if there is somebody in Klaviyo, but not in Shopify, having this ticked will create them in Shopify. To be honest, I like to just leave it as all profiles. It's not really much of an issue on my end. It just helps Shopify analyze the data a little bit better, and then I just go ahead and pass all this data here as well. The more the better, to be honest. If you're just starting out, odds are you probably don't have any custom properties that you're passing over into Shopify. But as time goes on, for example, if you create a custom segment of people, that's like a VIP segment in Klaviyo, and you want to be able to see that segment in Shopify, it's best to select that custom property because you're going to have to tag them with a VIP status or something along those lines. So there you have it. You pass all that information over, and these are the metrics that Shopify is going to pass into Klaviyo. So checkout started, placed order, ordered product, fulfilled order. Note, active on site and add to cart are not in here, but they should show up within your metrics in Klaviyo. So there we have it. Now, I'm actually going to jump into another account and show you what the settings look like in that account. So let me just go ahead and click this really quickly here. If I jump into this client here, we'll go here. We'll click leave. And here we go. So this is a brand new store. So we're going into settings. Now we're going to run through the settings tabs within Klaviyo. And this is after you actually set up your initial account. This is quite important to note because when you do first start off, you're going to want to add some of these details here. So here is where you have your personal information. If you are the owner of the store, and note with Klaviyo, there can only be one owner, you will see all of this information. But if you've been added as like a manager or a campaign coordinator, and there's a bunch of different roles that you can add for Klaviyo, you might not see all this information. Really important thing though to start off with is to go into your organization, right? Here you can update your address. You can select your time zone. This is quite important, right? So if you see here, it's set to US Eastern, but this is a New Zealand client. So we're going to go New Zealand, or in this case, Auckland. We can set that there. And another really important thing, we click save, is to set up the industry information. This is really important because this allows you to benchmark your email marketing efforts to the rest of the industry and see how well your emails are performing relative to the rest of the space. Super useful. I find this really good, especially if you're working with clients. If you are an agency managing email marketing, this allows you to show how much better you're doing compared to other businesses out there and really just validate your existence as an agency. So in this case, these guys are food and beverage. And so we can see food and beverage. There are a bunch of industries you can select from here. And you can obviously select other if it's not there. For the most part, most e-commerce is covered under here. I have every now and then noticed that occasionally there is a category missing. Can't remember those off the top of my head, but just feel free to come as close as possible to the section or industry that you operate within. So this client here is food and beverage, so we're going to click there. And then industry must be a string type, so obviously since I've messed around, there we go. Click save. Account currency, another really important thing to set, because if you're in New Zealand and you're like, oh my God, we've only done, $2,000 in sales, but that's US dollars, that's like an extra 1.5K roughly at the time of making this video of sales that are not registering in Klaviyo, or they are registering, but they're not showing because the currency exchange rate gets a bit skewed. So make sure you set your currency. So New Zealand dollars, quite important to add that there. There we go. The user section is where you can add new users, quite self-explanatory. API keys. We're not going to see those really quickly, but that's where you can kind of create custom keys to pass into other apps and everything like that. It is important to have a knowledge of that. If you're an agency, make sure you get that API key and put it to a registered lead in the Klaviyo Partner Program. Multi-factor authentication. I like to use this here. Require for your account. I have this turned on. Just kind of gives you a little bit extra security. Now, since this is a client's account, I do not have require for all users in your organization because it's up to the client to decide if this is the case, and they've decided not to. Billing is where you see everything from a billing perspective. Really important, it's free, up to 250 active profiles, but please note, with Klaviyo, they charge you for active profiles or emails sent, right? If you have a list of, let's say, 3,000 people, right, and only 1,000 of them are engaged, you don't need to be paying for the $3,000 a month Klaviyo package. You only need to be paying for the $1,000 a month package because you're only going to be sending emails to 1,000 people, 1,000 of that 3,000. So you don't need to be paying for 3,000 active profiles. You really only should be paying for 1,000 active profiles. Now, if you send a lot of emails, your monthly usage might actually be higher, and that's where you actually have to pay more money. So it's really whatever one of these hits first. If you only have 1,000 subscribers, it'll show, if you only have 1,000 active subscribers, but let me reword this. If you have 1,000 engaged subscribers, but in total you have 3,000 active profiles, it will show you that you're over it, but you don't have to worry if you're only sending to 1,000 of those people. That's why it's important to create an engaged segment of users. I hope that makes sense. If not, chuck a comment down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer it. You can also see here SMS. Now, Klaviyo SMS is a bit unique in that you buy credits, and sending to different countries costs a different amount of credits. Obviously, I'm in New Zealand. SMS marketing is expensive in New Zealand. To send one SMS message, 160 characters long, that costs 10 SMS credits. That is 10 times the price of United States. So it's a lot of money. On top of that, we can't send MMS in Australia, New Zealand, or the UK. MMS is multimedia. What's basically you can include images in your messages. And there's a bunch of other factors as well that you can kind of include within that functionality. But from a real marketing perspective, it's the ability to include images in the messages, and we can't do that in Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Now, you can obviously update your account, how much you want to be paying per month and how many active profiles. Once again, we mentioned 3,000. See, they're recommending 3,000, but I'm willing to bet from this account, we haven't started sending campaigns, I'm willing to bet there's only about 1,000 active or engaged readers of these emails, so I'm not going to go for that $70 a month plan. I'll go for a smaller plan that supports this one here, $45 a month, because that's 1,000 profiles that I'll be sending. Once again, I hope that makes sense. If not, I understand it's a bit confusing, but nonetheless, you can also update your preferences, so your billing, your send billing notifications here, your ABN number, which is Australia business number. This is just a default number, but it's like your GST if you're tax registered, all that good stuff. You can check it in there. Payment history there. Here's an interesting thing too. Klaviyo, this will go away. This branding will go away the moment you go onto a paid plan, so nothing to worry about there. Sending preferences, smart sending. So really important to know what this is. Smart sending is essentially a feature when enabled in Klaviyo prevents somebody from receiving an email if they've received an email within the window of time you set here. So in this case here, we've set it to 16 hours. So if somebody receives an email 14 hours ago and we send them another email and we leave smart sending on, it will prevent them from receiving that email. It's really just a tool that allows you to know that you're not bombarding your readers with emails. In this case, the default is 16 hours. You can adjust it however much you want. I will say a good rule of thumb is the more emails you send, the better, as long as they are value driven, they give information, and they are not solely sales focused. You need to have a nice window of educating your audience, promoting yourself as a thought leader, building authority, building affinity to your brand, and then selling. It can't all just be sales. So that's where smart sending has to come into the consideration area. Now, attribution. this is a very important thing to be aware of as well. And I'll tell you a little story after this. Attribution is essentially attributing a sale to email based on how long it was since somebody interacted with said email. In Klaviyo's case, the default is 5 days. What does that mean? If somebody opens, or in this case, clicks an email within a 5-day period, and they place an order within that 5-day period, Klaviyo will attribute the sale to Klaviyo and nothing else. And this is really important to understand from a reporting perspective, because all different platforms want to claim that they made the sale, right? Was it your Facebook ad? Was it your Google ad? Was it your SEO? Was it email? And all of them will have different attribution windows, so it's important to know what each attribution window is and set it accordingly. Klaviyo's default is 5 days. If you feel like that is unrealistic, feel free to adjust that. You can also click opened or clicked email, excluding Apple privacy opens. So that means Apple privacy opens. Apple devices treat every email from a reporting perspective in Klaviyo as being opened. It's a new privacy update, or not really new anymore, but any email that gets sent to an Apple device is counted as an open. So it actually can skew your data a little bit, and if a sale takes place, even if they haven't opened an email, it'll attribute it there. In this case, it's saying exclude Apple entirely. I like to keep it here, to be honest, open and clicked an email. Clicked an email is a bit more strict, right? So if they click an email and they place an order within 5 days, it'll get attributed to that email specifically. So it's important just to kind of know this interface, and I like to leave it as default. But a big thing to notice, and this is something that I've seen, is sometimes agencies will come in. It's really important to trust the agency that you're working with and adjust this attribution window without you knowing. And they'll adjust it to be a lot bigger and wider to make it look like they're doing more sales than what they actually are. And this is why it's important to keep an eye on this little attribution window, because an agency can come on, right, without you knowing, change the attribution window from 5 days to 10 days, right? Then kick off your email marketing, and then all of a sudden it looks like they're getting a much bigger chunk of the total revenue than they actually were, right? Oh, look, we've increased your email revenue by 100% since we started. And it's like, no, you've just adjusted the attribution window and claimed more of the total revenue that's actually taking place. So just keep an eye on that. Domains, really important. Dedicated sending domain. If you are just starting out and you haven't emailed your list, I recommend just leaving it as a shared sender domain and setting this up later. In a really basic sense, a dedicated sender domain is a name that your brand will use via email that no one else can use. Currently, if you do not have one of these set up, you are using a domain that yourself and other people using Klaviyo are using. Now, this is good when you are just starting out, because your emails, it's about deliverability. Your business doesn't have much of a reputation to rely on, and you want to build one up with a shared sender domain to make sure your audiences are familiar with your emails, are reading your emails, engaging with your emails. And once you have that good track record, it'll then be time to switch over to a dedicated sending domain. And what that'll do is it'll allow you to have one domain, and only your sending behavior will affect the reputation of that domain. What does reputation mean? In the case of email marketing, every email address has a reputation. Gmail, Outlook, Hotmail, any device that receives emails, or rather email ESP that receives emails, will have a record of your reputation as a sender. And if you're sending bad emails that get marked as spam by other people who have, for example, a Gmail account, Gmail will tell all the other Gmail accounts that you're sending spam, which will mean that your emails go into the spam box, which is why it's really important when you first start to not have a dedicated sender domain and build up a reputation first, so that your dedicated sender domain doesn't get burnt in the early stages. Then, once you do have a good reputation, you switch over to the dedicated one, because the only people you're going to be sending emails to are the ones that haven't unsubscribed or haven't given you a spam complaint and have been engaging with your emails. Then you can set up a dedicated one, and that's where your deliverability will shoot up even more, because it's just you using that domain. So, moving on, We have SMS, nice and easy. I'm not going to go too much into this just because we're not setting up SMS on here, but it's very easy to set up. Push notifications. This is just sending push notifications to iOS users via Klaviyo campaigns and flows. You can turn all this stuff on if you want. Data, I recommend turning this on. So go into Data, Preferences, Enable Anonymous Visitor Tracking. What this means is that if a person who is not registered in Klaviyo goes onto your website, does a bunch of stuff, and then subscribes to your email marketing, Klaviyo will be able to pull that data retrospectively or retroactively. My grammar's not that good, but pull that data and pull it into Klaviyo, so we'll be able to match all their historical data, even though the entry into your database is taking place over here. We'll be able to take all this historical information and still use that for future email marketing efforts. Just leave that stuff on. So we're going to go ahead and click that and click Update. Then we're going to go ahead and click Other, Preference Page, Subscribe Page, Email Confirmation. This is just customizing some of the aspects of when people actually register to your email marketing, to your whole email marketing strategy, essentially. Web feeds, this is a bit complex, so we're not really going to go too deep into that for a lot of us if we're just starting with Klaviyo. Profile maintenance, this is deleting people from Klaviyo, and you can just delete people or entire lists from this database or from this selection of people right here. UTM tracking, I like to turn this on. Automatically add UTM parameters to links. This allows you to track in Google where conversions are taking place. Really important. Back in stock settings, this is a bit of a complex flow or automation that you can set up in Klaviyo. I'm not going to go too in depth in this one here. I like to leave it here, notify subscribers in groups at a time. If you do want to do a back-end stock flow, I'll make a separate video about that later. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see me make a flow like that. Basically, these are flows that alert people to an item that they registered their interest for that was out of stock, that is now back in stock. It's really good, generates a lot of sales if you have items that go out of stock regularly. Back in stock reports, just wait for this to load here. Hopefully this doesn't completely bunk out. Yeah, there you go. You can just create reports for yourself. Go back to products. Nah, it's totally messed up. But nonetheless, that is essentially all of the settings tab within Klaviyo. Now, we're going to quickly go into some of the flows that every person should be building within Klaviyo. There are 4 basic flows that I recommend everybody have. Those being the welcome series, the abandoned cart, the browse abandon, and the post-purchase thank you flow. Now, I know the post-purchase thank you flow is probably a bit of a controversial one for some email marketers out there, but I'll tell you why I think the post-purchase flow is important down the line. So let's get into setting some of these flows up, nice and easy. We'll make them super simple so we don't spend a whole lot of time on these flows here. But here we have a welcome series, right? I'm not going to manually create it because we've already whipped these up for you guys to look at. But as you can see here, a welcome series is triggered off of someone subscribing to a newsletter. So if you have a pop-up form on your website, and we'll go into that later in this video, this essentially adds them to this newsletter, and then that'll trigger the flow here. And this is a series of emails that comes out over a period of time that you send to your readers. Now, I like to have a nice little gap of days here, and I actually like to add dynamic time delays here as well. I like to say 9 a.m. because for a lot of my clients, that's when I've seen the most effective time for sending emails is. Now, everyone's database is different, right? 9 a.m. may work for your store, 9 p.m. may work for another store. It's all about testing, and we will do that with this client in the future, but for the time being, I'm just going to go on what I know works for the most part, and we're going to adjust in the future. But we're going to adjust to 9 a.m., a specific time in the morning for this client. So if I go here, recipient's local time, you can also delay until specific days of the week. So if you don't want to send emails on the weekend, you can go ahead and select, make sure these emails come out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then kick out Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to leave it on, to be honest, because I want to, and I think it's okay in this case. We're going to go 9 a.m. Perfect. Now, in these emails, I'm not going to break open these because we don't actually have any content in these right now, but the first one should always be welcoming them to the store and offering them the coupon if there was one that you offered in the sign up form or the pop-up. Never offer the discount on the pop-up form itself. Why? Because you want to use your email to deliver that coupon to help build familiarity with your readers with the medium, and it also helps build engagement with your email marketing platform or your domain, because Google or Hotmail or Outlook will see that people are engaging with your emails, aka this first email, to get that coupon code, which will build up your reputation and help you move from, hopefully not the spam folder, but the promotions folder or the updates folder into the primary inbox. Really important to deliver any kind of discount that was promised via sign-up form directly via email. Here, you can tell a bit more of your brand story. Here, you can build up your social media following, recommend products. In the fourth email, I like to remind people of the coupon that they have if they have not placed an order, which is why I have a conditional split here, has placed order, 0 times overall time. If that is the case, they receive this email here. If it is not the case, meaning they've placed an order before, we wait an additional 7 days and we send them another email, which in this case will be asking them for their birthday, and we can create a flow off of that custom property in the future. I'm not going to go into that today though. So that is the welcome series. Let's go into the abandoned checkout. I know I said abandoned cart at the start. I'm actually going to pivot and say abandoned checkout. Abandoned cart and abandoned checkout are two very different, well, not very similar, but different things. So this flow is triggered not off of somebody adding an item to their cart, but starting the checkout and there being a filter here saying placed order 0 times since starting this flow. So if they started checkout and they haven't placed an order since being in this flow, we know that they've abandoned the checkout process. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and recover that sale. I always like to start off with a 30-minute and 45-minute delay, depending on the price point of the product. Higher ticket items, I have found, work better with longer time delays. Lower ticket items, I have found, once again, test this, which is why we have a test going right here, work better with a 15, 30, 45, sometimes even a 5-minute time delay. But test that. And we're doing a 50-50 split test right here to figure out what time is the best to send that follow-up reminder email. In this first email, we're just going to remind the reader of their item that they left behind, saying something like, hey, we noticed you left your item behind. Are you still interested? Have a dynamic product block in there just to show people that the item is still there. After 1 day, we're also going to adjust the time delays. Actually, we're not going to adjust the time delays here. We're going to leave them with 1 day, and I'll explain that in a second. But after 1 day, we say, have they placed an order 0 times overall time? If it's yes, meaning they've never placed an order before, we know that they still have that coupon from the welcome series that they have not used because they've never placed an order before, right? So we know that's the case. And here's what we do, right? We send them an email here that provides that coupon code from the welcome series along with displaying the product that they started the checkout with. Then after 2 days, we do the exact same. Hey, final reminder, we'd love to see you come back to our store. Here's a reminder of your discount. That stuff. It works really well because you're using a coupon, but you're not using a new coupon. You're using the one from the welcome series. Now, if they are individual custom coupon codes, you'll need to actually create a new coupon code here. But if it's like a static one, like welcome 10 or something like that, just go ahead and copy it from the welcome series and put it into here. If they have placed an order at least once overall time, we know that they may have used their coupon before, and there's no point in us actually giving them another coupon because then people will just forever shop at a discount. So we just send them another follow-up reminder saying, hey, we noticed you left your item behind. Are you still interested in placing an order? And that's how we do it there. Now, the reason I don't add a time delay here is because I think, and this is just my hypothesis, I may be wrong, and this is once again up to testing, I think that having it come out 1 day after the initial buying behavior was demonstrated means that somebody is once again in the buying mood, but just 1 day later, right? If we delay until 9 a.m. and the person started the checkout process at 5 p.m., perhaps 5 p.m. is when they're most likely to shop, and we should therefore reflect that with a 1 day delay right here. I hope that makes sense. Now, the second most important flow, or rather the third most important flow or typically the third most important flow, is the browse abandon. And this flow, it's a short, simple one. You can once again make these very big if you want, but we're just assuming you're just starting out with your email marketing. This flow is triggered off of somebody viewing a product and filtering people out who have placed an order, been in the flow in the last 14, and checkout started 0 times since starting this flow. Why do we have these? I'll tell you why. If they place an order, we no longer need to remind them of their item that they viewed, right? Because they've already bought it. If they've been in the flow in the last 14 days, we kick them out because people can view a lot of products in a short period of time, and we don't want to keep bombarding them with emails constantly. So we add this restriction here. If they've been in this flow in 14 days, we kick them out. It will help reduce unsubscribe rates. Even though I'm a big fan of sending a lot of emails, if you're sending the same emails constantly, it can cause list attrition. And then finally, what someone has or has not done, checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, because if they start checkout here, that means they will go into our abandoned checkout flow that we just talked about. So these flows speak to each other, right? If they view a product, but they don't start the checkout, we know this flow should work. But if they have started checkout, we know this flow should be abandoned and should be taken over by the abandoned checkout flow. Exact same thing should go for the abandoned cart if you do have an abandoned cart flow. Just so go ahead and click add a condition and click and just down there at the bottom. Notice how it says and here, there'll be another one just down below. Click and then make sure it says what somebody has or has not done added to cart 0 times since starting this flow. Nice and easy. In these emails, once again, I'm split testing 30 minutes versus 45 minutes, but I'm split testing the time delay. I have smart sending on and I have UTM tracking on. We just remind them of the item that they viewed. And then after 2-day delay, once again, not a dynamic time delay, it's just a straight 2-day delay. We say, hey, final reminder about the item that you viewed. Let us know if you're still interested, or something obviously better copy than that, but just remind the reader of that. Finally, the most important flow, and this flow will not be fully finished because you notice we have the fulfilled order and the post-purchase thank you flow here. I'll explain that in a second. Post-purchase thank you flow. This flow, I actually like to just leave these as plain text emails, okay? So these emails are saying, thank you so much for your first or repeat or second or whatever purchase. And we just say, thank you so much. It means a lot to us. We write these emails. Let me take a step back. The post-purchase thank you flow is a flow that is thanking somebody for their order. We write these emails not in a way to sell, but I like to write these emails in a way that makes them seem like they're coming directly from the founder, no creative, so just a plain text email, and I'll quickly show you what that means. If I go configure content, right, click here, I change the sender name, I go text only, so here you can create a graphically designed email, an HTML email, or a text-only email. And a text-only email is like an email that you and I would send to each other, so it feels more personal. I click text only, and then I write out the email within here. I go, hi, first name. Obviously, we're going to change all this. This email is just for you. We hope you like it. The team, right? I'd make this seem a lot more personal. I'd say, thank you so much for your first purchase. It means so much that you support local business and small business as well. It's your support that keeps us going. That kind of stuff that helps build affinity with your brand. And then I always say, thanks, Gavin, or whatever the name of the founder is. I click Save Content, and this is another really important note to have. I also say sender name, Gavin Cheese Cartel, right? Obviously Cheese Cartel is the name of this business, but I also say Gavin at Cheese Cartel. I change the sender email address. Now note, if people reply to this email, and sometimes they do because these emails are quite personal, it'll go to whoever you specify in this domain. So just make sure whoever you specify is okay with emails going there. And usually if you're a small business, doing under 100K a month, you're not going to get a whole lot of, bombarded with emails coming in. And it's actually a really nice message to receive when someone says, thank you so much, it means a lot to us, all that good stuff. One other thing as well. So I add those emails in here. And we'll go back into the flow here. Notice here, there's no flow filters. I'm actually going to add some flow filters here. And hopefully this comes up because click what someone has or has not done, refunded order 0 times since starting this flow, and what someone has or has not done, canceled order 0 times since starting this flow. And then click Save. I add these conditions here because if somebody refunds their order and cancels it, it'll kick them out of the flow. It seems obvious, but a lot of people seem to forget this little touch point here. Really important to include that there. Now, I wait an hour, and then I send them that thank you email if they've placed an order once. So I say, thank you so much for your first order. That means so much to us. But if they placed an order that equals 2 overall time, I send them down this side. Now note, this is just a very specific, essentially a very specific conditional split. We have subscriptions offered in this product from this client, so feel free to ignore this conditional split. But note, in this email, I will say, once again, address it from the same person, and I will say, hey, thank you so much for your second order. It means so much that you're actually continuing to support our business. Righty, righty, rah. Feel free to even offer a discount if you want. And those emails really help build brand affinity. They're not going to get you sales, I'll admit it, but they will help in the long run with future email marketing as people feel like they are valued because they're getting a written email from the founder. It's, believe me, this is a secret sauce that a lot of people seem to miss. 100% do this. It works. Now, that's the post-purchase thank you flow. Some of you guys who are a bit more experienced are probably wondering, well, hold on, like where's the cross-sell opportunities? How are you upselling people on stuff? I'll show you. That comes in the fulfilled order flow. So I know I said at the start I'm only going to mention 4 flows, but I like to consider these really, if I were to say like flow 1.0 is the post-purchase thank you flow, and flow 1.1 is the fulfilled order flow. They're kind of part of the same, but just split off of different triggers. And this fulfilled order flow is triggered off of the order being fulfilled. And we send them an immediate email saying, hey, your order has been shipped. Thank you so much. You should expect it in X amount of time, all that good stuff that you typically convey. And then you send them your upsells. Now here is where things are going to get really unique to your business. I'm just going to use this as an illustrative point from a flow perspective as to what will work. But nonetheless, if somebody equals 1 overall time, I like to kick them in, or I like to keep them getting emails. But if it's not, I like to kick them out because I don't want to send them the same emails every time they place an order. And I like to kick them out if they place an order at least once since starting this flow, but I have it as conditional splits here. It gets complex, but just do that. If you have it as a flow filter, sometimes you can kick them out before they get the fulfilled order email, and it's important for them to get that. So we also just cross-sell items here. So you can have conditional splits that says what somebody has or has not done, placed orders 0 times since starting this flow, and has never placed an order for product XYZ. And then you cross-sell that offer because you know after, for example, a specified time period, especially if it's a perishable good, that it might be about time for them to buy a new good. And it's time for them to upsell them and remind them. The reason we have 21 days is because we're selling cheese, and we have found that after 21 days, it's typically about the next time for the person to buy a new box of cheese. So we have a follow-up email coming out, 21 days, reminding them that it's time to buy their next box. That's how you can use flows really, really, really well. So that's everything we do from a flows perspective. I'm going to quickly jump into the campaign side of things. And since we're not sending any campaigns, I'm just going to go over some general rules. With campaigns and email marketing, you want to have a nice balance between informational content and sales-based content. I like to have a nice 50-50 split where 50% of the time I am educating my audience and 50% of the time I am selling to my audience at the minimum, right? I'd actually like to be a bit more aggressive with the informational content and build up a bit more reader goodwill, but it's all about striking a balance. And sometimes clients want to be a bit more aggressive on the sales, and I get it because if they're hiring me, they want to make money. But I'm telling you, you're building up goodwill with your reader, and in the long run, it'll play off. But that's my job to convince the client of that. But nonetheless, with email marketing, you want to have a nice balance. And in here is where you're going to create your campaigns. So you're just going to go ahead and click Create Campaign. You're going to select the name, the date, the email, and you're going to go Save and Continue. And you're actually going to go ahead and select the list that you're going to send the campaign to. I like to send campaigns once a week, regardless of the size of your list. But if you only have time to do once a month, just do it once a month. But nonetheless, here's where you're going to select your list. And you're going to notice that I've actually got some lists here. Engaged 30 days, engaged 60 days, engaged 90 days. And typically, I like to send to engaged 90 days. But what does that mean? Let's go into the list and segment side and break that down a little bit more. So list and segments is essentially where all of your contacts and your readers are going to be housed, where your subscribers are. And lists are static lists of people, and segments are portions of those lists that are broken up according to behaviors that your readers demonstrate, tags that you've assigned to your readers, or just simple things such as their location or their interest. I'll show you the engaged segment that I like to create, and I may make some little tweaks here live as well. So as you can see here, we have engaged 90 days. I've called it 90 days because that's the engaged segment. And what I say is, if someone is in the newsletter list, right, and what someone has done, opened an email at least once in the last 90 days, or clicked an email at least once in the last 90 days, or subscribed to the newsletter, or was added to the newsletter in the last 45 days. So what this means is anybody who's clicked or opened or subscribes to a newsletter in the last 90 days, or in the newsletter case, last 45 days, we will add them to this engaged database. And we're going to send emails to that specific segment, especially the informational ones. Sales emails, we can be a bit more aggressive and expand this to, say, 120 days or something like that, but I like to use 90 days, and you're going to see the best engagement coming from that segment of people. Those are the people who want to read your emails, who are engaging with your emails, who click, who buy, and help bring your email deliverability up. That's typically who I send all of my emails to. Now, that's from a segmentation perspective. You can go a million different ways with segmentation, and I'm not going to dive too deep into that because I could literally spend hours on that here. But if you want to learn a little bit more, check a comment, shoot me an email. Happy to help. Finally, sign-up forms. Now, we're not going to have anything set up here, but I'm just going to go over some basic principles really quickly. Here, we haven't actually set up any forms, so we're going to go ahead and click Browse Templates, and we can build from scratch, okay? We're going to do for a pop-up, we're going to call this IB test, and when people submit to this pop-up, we're going to select the list that they want to go to. So if it's your newsletter list, click that, and once they submit the pop-up, it'll add them to the list, and if you set up your welcome series, it'll make them go through the welcome series flow. So we click Save and Continue to Design, okay? Once that loads, we will go on to the next stage. See what happens here. Here we go. So here is the pop-up form interface. Interested in our newsletter? Stay in the know with news and promotions. Enter your email address. You can add a bunch more forms here, and you can change the behavior. So there's pop-up, which is when it pops up right in your face. Full page, when it takes over the whole page. Fly out is when it comes out from the side. And then embed is when it's embedded in a part of your site. I have found the best conversion rates come from pop-ups, and obviously adjusting the copy and having some good design in there. And there's a bunch of settings that you can adjust just on the left-hand side here. I'm not going to go too into those here, but it's important. One thing I really want you to notice is it's really important to actually make sure you create 2 different forms, one for desktop and one for mobile, because you're going to want to test these forms, right? So this form now that I'll click Show on Desktop is only going to display for desktop. And we're going to create some split tests in the future. Not right now. We're going to create some split tests. We're going to test when the best time to load this form is, what the best behavior is. Is it the pop-up like I mentioned before, or is it actually fly out? But here's the thing. People interact with your pop-up forms and your sign-up forms differently according to the device that they're on. And if we can't see that from a data perspective, right? If we're not able to see how people interact differently by having a desktop only and a mobile only form, we're not going to really be able to optimize these forms as best as we can. So I'm going to go ahead and click desktop, and then I'm going to run my own tests in my own time outside of this video, but that's just an important thing to know. Click Don't Show to Existing Klaviyo Profiles, meaning if somebody's already subscribed to your newsletter, make sure it doesn't show to them. By URL, only show on certain URLs, and there'll be a little bit of code down on the bottom here behind my face that you copy and paste onto your theme pages in your website. Nice and easy. You'll click Publish, there'll be a bit of code, copy and paste that code, chuck it in. Now, we're going to go ahead and click Exit, and we're going to clone this form, and we're going to show this one on mobile. Come up with better names, obviously. We're just using this as like a dummy. But here we go. We're going to say pop-up form, and we're going to go ahead and select this one to mobile only. That way we can see the different interactions that people are having. Also, really important, make sure you create A/B tests. You always want to be optimizing things as much as you possibly can. Create A/B test. Test something just initially as simple as the load time. Make it 5 seconds before the pop-up displays versus 10 seconds. See what the engagement rate is. If it's better at 10 seconds, switch it to 10 seconds and then optimize again and again and again. Email marketing is all about testing as much as you possibly can. So guys, there you have it. Nice and easy. I hope that was a good run through. And let me know if you have any questions. I hope you enjoyed that video. Any questions, let me know in the comments section down below. Feel free to reach out to me via email or check out my website, my LinkedIn, all that good stuff. I've even got a newsletter that I'm setting up as well, which will give you weekly tricks on how to really dial in your email marketing strategy. Also, any comments, chuck them in. I answer every single one of your guys' questions. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next video.